obviously, after taking a look at the film on Sunday, defensively, felt we made some improvements in certain areas. Gave up a couple big plays, but I've always felt defensively, if you just give our defense another chance to play, don't give them a quick score. So to eliminate that problem was positive. Obviously, we weren't very happy with the drive to start the second half. We opted to kick with the win and try to stall them out on that first drive and have them punt and try to create some field position. But they went down and scored. Our defense took that and responded very, very well to shut them out the rest of the game. But I think we were 3 or 4 on fourth down stops, which was positive. Special teams, for us to continue to have good signs. We punted way too often, but the 7 punts, I thought Drew Meyer is doing an outstanding job. Had the one long return and get called back. There was 2 clips on that play, but something that we have to correct on film and move forward. I was really happy with Kyle French, again, continued to kick the ball well in the kickoff as well as PAT, and then, they'll probably get debated for a long time on whether that ball was legal at the end, but as far as the execution and what we asked Kyle to do, was very, very happy with that effort. Wish we would have got the ball, but obviously didn't. And offensively, just a lot of things to correct. One thing I popped on film, I thought guys were straining, weren't having great results, but there were some good efforts down the field. Obviously, the way we ended the game gave me an indicator that we didn't quit. I thought the guys really snapped it in there. We went 2 minutes, probably showed the best rhythm we had all day, and was neat to see Danny orchestrate that and come out positive on the end. There's a lot of things he needs to improve individually as well as several other guys. So from an injury standpoint, the big thing is Shelton Johnson, a senior captain, one of our best leaders on defense, unfortunately broke his arm, had a surgery on Sunday. The good news is I thought on Saturday it was going to be a season-ending deal. He's a guy that's already redshirted. I didn't want to see that be his last game or his last snap as a college football player. He should be back with us hopefully in 6 weeks or a little bit less. So that was encouraging. And then Abby, as we all know, Jared Abadaris, who's an extremely tough kid, took a pretty significant shot. The view that I had on the sideline was from behind. I knew he got high load, but I didn't see the impact that the high player had on his chest. And had some significant damage just from the blow itself. Nothing structurally that's going to keep him out for a long time. And probably the biggest thing keeping him out will be he was slightly concussed. So he's a day-by-day guy. There's a good chance we could have him this week. If not, expect him to be back out there the week after. Another starter that we held out, Brennan Kelly, was very, very close to playing on Saturday. We took him out there, warmed him up. He just didn't feel good enough to go where we're at. So he missed some time, but other than that, everybody should be back there with us. Sam Arneson, who we didn't take out there last week, he had significant swelling on his knee, and we'll probably practice tomorrow, but should be there for Saturday's game. So to get to where we need to be, I know there's been a lot of talk out there as well about my staff and where we're going. As of today, officially moved on in a transition at the offensive line position. Brought Mike in February of last year. Felt very strong about his resume and what he brought to the table. Did the due diligence bringing him in, but it was at a point on Sunday that I contacted people early in the morning, made sure that a transition could happen, and sat down with Mike Sunday afternoon, had a conversation with him, and really wish it wasn't going to end the way it did. But for himself, for us, had a conversation that it just, for a lot of personal matters and some things that are specific to the program, decided to move on and transition. Mike is a great person, did a lot while he was here, did a nice job for us in recruiting. But for some personal matters, Mike is an extremely, a guy that really cares about his family, I think, and there was a lot of weighing factors. Mike has a son that's a senior in high school that I know was pulling on him quite a bit. His daughter's a freshman in college back in Mississippi, and a wife that's back there, and I think he's going to make a pretty transition to get back with them and see where the next step takes him, but wish him the best of luck. And I know everybody's got their own foregone conclusions of what transpired. It was really something that wasn't a knee-jerk thing by me. It's something that we've kind of talked about and processed through, and he and I sat down together, had a good conversation, talked to him 3 or 4 times yesterday, talked to him last night about 9:30. He had a meeting this morning with the people that he needed to visit with. Talked to him after that again today, and assured him that anything I can do to help him in the future, we would. The exciting part for me is I'm able to bring along a guy, Bart Miller, that was GA brought into the program by Coach Bostad. Coach Bo coached him at New Mexico, was very high on him. I traditionally like to keep our GAs within house. I like to bring in guys that were former players of mine, or Coach Alvarez, that have a tie into the program. But Bart's resume stood out. He's a guy that kind of was away from the game a little bit, came back into it for all the right reasons, made an immediate impact on our players and our coaches. I think the guys that have been in the program, as well as the ones that have left, think very highly of him. And don't know if I would have made the move if I didn't feel so good about his replacement. So give Bart his opportunity to hop into this role, and a guy that can kind of maybe marriage the bridge that we need right now, especially at the offensive line. A little bit of obviously how he was coached as a player, where he learned his football the last couple of years here with us, and then being in part of Coach Canada's offense and the staff since last January to where we are now. I think it's the perfect bridge for where we're at as far as Bart's replacement as a GA or quality control. I'm still kind of processing ourselves through that. So, kind of made the best of a good situation. As a head coach, I know I'm responsible for everybody, every player, every coach, every family, every support staff, and just felt that as a head coach, I got to make some decisions once in a while that aren't going to be popular, and from the outside world looking in, may not make all the most sense. But for me, internally, as a head coach, internally, I know how to win games, know how to win championships, and the decision I made was one that I'm going to stick with and go forward. So, with that, move forward with any questions.
Bret, were there any personality issues with Mike and the players, or was it more of a technique thing?
No, I think personality is what made me attracted to him early on, and felt really strong. He's engaging. He's very, very cognizant of the history here at Wisconsin, and a guy that is really easy to get along with, which probably made the decisions that I had to make that much more difficult. But on the flip side of it, it's a decision that I made just to. I think I've been involved with some staffs, Tom, and some situations where, in the end, I knew directions, whether I was an assistant or even me as a head coach. Decisions traditionally are made at the end of the year, and it always drove me nuts. As a young coach, I really felt I was involved on a staff. My first experience in coaching, where there were some guys that really weren't where we needed to be as a staff, and it hurt everybody overall. So I always kind of said to myself, as I got older and as I grew in the profession, if I was ever in a position that I knew transition needed to be made, I wasn't going to be one that waited until it's comfortable. I was going to make a decision when it needed to be made.
Are you concerned that how this would be perceived, that there's some level of instability in the program or panic or something like that?
Well, only if you put it there. I think anybody that lives in our programs, it was greeted with open arms. I think our players, obviously the most detailed part of it would be our offensive line, but panic is for the outside world. Reality is what I live in, and I think, it's not a normal thing. There's probably a lot of things over the last 7 years that a lot of people from the outside world wouldn't see it as normal, but I do as a head coach, and it's been successful, so I'll stick with that plan.
Bret, you said you learned when you were younger that don't wait to make a decision if you have enough sufficient evidence to make it now. Given that, are there still any risks in making this move 2 weeks into the season with a guy who you obviously have faith in, but his track record is a little bit smaller than some
Yeah, I think as all of us in our lives, you go off of what you've experienced and what you've seen be successful. And again, if I didn't have Bart, if he hadn't been here for 2+ years and seen the side of the world from both ends, I wouldn't have made this decision. It's made possible because of a guy like Bart. I go back, I got my first opportunity. I was a GA, and everybody thought I was too young, couldn't believe where we're going. Basically, the guy that I replaced was someone that had coached all around in all different levels, and had all kinds of success, but it was getting at that point in his career where it wasn't as clear, so they transitioned me in, and I knew what was going on. I was a GA. I knew what was being thought of by the players, the coaches, and obviously I think I've proven myself in a very short fashion. Was one of the youngest coaches as an assistant, youngest coordinators, and one of the youngest head coaches. I'm not saying Bart's going to follow that same, but a lot of the things that I see are real. And then I'll be quite honest. Last February, I have a short list of people at all positions, and both defensively and offensively, I listed 2 of our GAs, Bart Miller and Ben Strickland. And when the opportunity came to hire Strick, I jumped at it and had some hesitation. Is this the right move? Kind of bounced it around for a week or two. I knew things were going to happen in a way that I was going to get him that shot. Since I've hired Ben to where we are today, I couldn't be happier. Recruiting-wise, techniques, the way the players have adapted, and when the decision came to hire Mike, Bart was like right there, and I just didn't feel I could name 2 GAs to full-time status and gain the continuity that I wanted, recruiting-wise, football-wise, and all that mumble jumble. But now as a head coach, I realized I probably could have and been just as far along or further along if I had, because there wouldn't have been as big a transition. So I got the utmost respect, and plus I'll be there. We'll be watching close. I called Coach Canada, obviously the first 2 people I gave information to were Coach Hammock and Coach Canada, 2 guys that I lean on hard for offense. And also told Coach Faulkner and Coach Azzani, hey, everybody's got to step up now. You got a new situation, a new set of dynamics to the situation. Let's see where we can go.
Bret, when you look at your O-line, the way it's played, is the talent level the same as it was? Are they being taught different techniques and not adjusting to that? I guess what's the reason they have not?
Well, we haven't had success, Tom, so for us to have success, we're going to do a little transition, and hopefully that'll call forward. We've been very talented. I was with an offensive recruit just 2 weeks ago, and I took into perspective that over the last 3 years, my left tackle was a first-round draft pick to the Bears. My left guard was a third-round pick to the Seahawks. My center was a third-round draft pick to the Falcons. My right guard was a first-round pick to the Cincinnati Bengals. My right tackle is now projected to be the first tackle taken in the draft, possibly with Ricky Wagner. And we had a guy that couldn't start for us that started for the Dallas Cowboys as a rookie. So the talent level was there. Where these guys end up is a lot about how they respond from this situation forward and what they do moving forward.
You mentioned you hope that Bart can be that bridge, and I think the logical question to have, because he worked under Bostad, played under him, and is that what you're hoping to, I don't want to say rekindle, but bring back the way that line was coached and the way that line performed?
I don't mean to play off the word at all, but I am semi-intelligent. When I said bridge, I mean exactly what I mean. I think bridge a little bit of what we had a year ago to where we're at now, and he can be that guy because he's been taught the techniques as a player, but also witnessed them as a coach, and then also bridges to what we're doing now. And not that there's a lot of differences, but there are subtle changes in communication and verbiage. And there was a lot going on for a 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old kid to process. And I think he's really going to bring that element that only he can bring. There's only one person in this world that has that capabilities, and the fortunate part is I've got the ability to hire him.
Bret, just looking ahead to this week's game, how much better do you think Utah State is than most people might suspect with the over Utah? What do you expect from your offense?
I remember watching Utah State Auburn a year ago. It was a game that jumped out to you just because I knew they were on our schedule, but also Auburn was the defending national champs, and obviously Auburn ended up winning that game, but it was a dramatic game that probably raised the awareness of everybody of Utah State. Friday night had an opportunity. I've watched them during the out of season, but Friday night had an opportunity to watch them play Utah in an in-state game. I don't believe they had lost them in 15 years or won in 15 years. So to see them win the way that they did, they've got key playmakers all over the field. Their quarterback is very gifted. Their running back, has been doing what he's doing for a couple of years. Their offensive line, big guys, all 6'5", 300-pound guys. They have wide receivers that make plays. Their offense is very dynamic defensively. They have a couple outstanding players at linebacker as well as corner. They bring a lot of pressures and create big play opportunities on defense. So I think what we'll have to do is buckle into what our game plan is, be sharp in what we're doing, and be able to execute on Saturday. But they're a very, very good football team.
What did you see specifically in Bart Miller a year ago that you thought so highly of him so quickly that you consider him an offensive lineman?
I like stories, Tom, and I think his story is cool. Being from where he's from to play at New Mexico and play as well as he did there. I think when he came in, you just get impressed with people. He's got a tremendous wife. Amy and him make a great couple. They make a great dynamic. Very mature beyond his years. I think the years he spent with the Blackhawks, and just that whole element that he's able to go into another dimension and still come back out of it. I think he was hungry to coach. It's very apparent. It was fun to build a relationship with him, with Coach Bo here, as well as when he left, and to see him kind of come out of his shell a little bit and help during the transition. I actually put him on the road last December and January as a recruiter when I lost a number of coaches. I was able to put him out there in the detail of his notes. The way he approached that side of it was very telling. Now, I've also told him he's worried about nothing but football right now. I don't need another recruiter, but it just gives me an indicator of what kind of person he is. You know, and I'll give him credit. Last night, he addressed the guys immediately. You know, as a GA, you kind of have a different role. You can kind of be a buddy yet slash a coach. And he was emphatic about last night. Listen, I love where we are at, and I love the relationship we have. But from this point moving forward, it changes. You know, when I took over, I remember Coach Fry telling me, "Hey, you can't wear blue jeans anymore. Why don't you wear your glasses more often and you know, try to shave more often. Just try to look more dedicated to the task." And Bart's been that way from day one. I didn't have to have that talk with him, so I'm excited to see where he can go with it.
Yeah.
You know, he was listed as the quality control. What are his responsibilities, and how big of a jump is it going to be?
You know, that's kind of semantics, Jeff. The NCAA didn't. I don't know if anybody followed through. The NCAA changed the rule in August, and you used to be able to have 2 GAs, and they passed it down to 4. So he used to be a quality control, which was he didn't have to take classes, and he couldn't be involved in certain aspects of coaching and recruiting. But now with 4 GAs, that's kind of eliminated. So you know, he's been really a GA now as just an underpaid coach. You know, as a GA, you by NCAA rules, you can only make the same as a scholarship player. So that changes the dynamic, and you can't go on the road and recruit.
Bret, you talked about you going through your due diligence when you made the hire of Markuson in the first place. I'm just curious, what does that all encompass, and how difficult was it at that time when you lose 5 other assistant coaches and you're still trying to wrangle up your recruiting class as well?
Yeah, it was. You know, I think that's been well documented. I don't need to go into it here, but you know, that time was one of the most chaotic and hectic things in the world professionally that I've ever been through. But felt good about it when I got done, and you know, I sit here today and talk about the transition that we're going to make. So obviously it didn't work out the way I would like, but I wouldn't go back and do anything over again. I felt confident about where we were then, and I have a kind of a 5-step process that I always go through, and I followed through with that. You know, fortunately for us, it's been very successful. I hired 6 new guys. I feel very, very good about the 5 that are remaining, and you know, I've hired guys in the past that I've had for a year that the NFL takes them or they get promoted, and I've had a lot of guys move on here to different promotions. So I think we're batting a pretty good percentage, but I'd love to be 1,000%, sure.
What was Miller's reaction like when you had to talk with him, and was he surprised by this?
Yeah, I didn't tell anybody. You know, this is something I've processed through my mind, and you guys have never been recruited by me that I'm aware of, but you know, one of the things I always tell recruits, when you make a decision, go to bed on it. You know, sleep on it. You know, tell your mom and dad, tell your circle of trust. I always use the reference to Meet the Fockers, you know, the movie. He's always talking about, you know, your circle of trust. Everybody's got that group, and you know, for me, I referenced those people, kind of made a decision, had some conversations on Sunday morning with administration, the people I need to talk to when I'm making a move of this nature, and then went into the office, processed what we normally do on a Sunday, but then the first 2 people I told in my hallway, I went to Matt and Thomas Hammock, brought them down, told them literally 5 minutes, you know, just explained where I wanted to go, the direction I wanted to go, how I was going to go about it, made sure they were comfortable with it, because they got to live in that room, and you know, they were taken back. I don't think they saw that coming, but explained why I was going that direction. Brought Mike in and had a very civil conversation, one that I think we both will take with us for a long time. I am a person that realizes that, you know, when I hire and when I relieve people of job opportunities, it changes their life forever, and it's something that I don't take easy. It's something that weighed on my heart very, very much. But I think that's also part of the reason we've had success. I'm never going to make a decision or delay a decision that I think will help us win football games. Like I said, I've seen a lot of coaches make this decision at the end of the year, and they probably knew it sooner than I did. They just don't want to cause the waves, and I'm not one that is scared of high waves.
So how did Miller react?
Oh, Bart, I don't think I can exactly use the phrase he said, but was very, very surprised. Then it suddenly changed to excitement. Also, you know, then I said, hey, this is just a process. We're going to get together later in the day. So I talked to him probably 2 or 3 times yesterday. Had a nice visit with him again this morning. He hit the ground running, and you know, I know nobody's gonna log more hours in that office than Bart Miller, and I would say in the next 3 to 4 months. Sorry, Jeff, long to get back to your story.
We only have a few days to fix a lot of things. Have you sensed any greater urgency from the team?
Oh, yeah, I thought Sunday, we actually didn't take the field. You know, the Ironman was going on, so we would have been confined to the indoors. I felt we just needed to get through all the tape, be very precise in our learning, and then get a little bit of a jump on Utah State. So we did a film session on them Sunday night. We give them today traditionally off, but seen a lot of players up in the hallway. You know, by NCAA rules, you only allow 20 hours a week. We always reference overtime, guys that want to come in and do a little bit extra. I've seen more guys up there in the last 24 hours than I've seen, so I think that urgency is very much there.
Bret, did you have a chance to talk to the offensive linemen specifically as a group, and was there a sense of excitement or anything of that nature?
Yeah, you know, not to give the exact timeline, but I'm a big believer in being upfront and honest with people. So we had a team meeting, didn't say anything there because the defensive guys were in there. We broke down the offense, defense. At that time, I usually let the coordinators take it. I addressed the entire offense, made them aware of what the situation was moving forward. I can read eyes and I can read reactions, you know, why that's going on. I can't watch, you know, essentially 50 guys, but I could tell the reaction. And then we go from that into position meetings. So when they broke and went into the offensive line came down, and I'm sitting in their meeting room waiting for them to come in. I closed the door, had a conversation with them, just me and them. Bart wasn't in the room. Explained why I was making the move, the expectations I had to move forward. Turned it over to Bart, and then a lot of the O-linemen stopped through today. You know, a lot of guys up to see Bart, and they'll swing through my office. So, you know, 24 hours less into this thing. I'm excited where we're at. Kind of, again, mixed emotions because I didn't want it to come about this way, but to make the best of a situation, I think we're on top of it.
When you look at the situation as a whole, what's the worst case scenario that could happen now?
We don't get better. You know, if there's, and now realize, you know, I'm not naive to the fact that you can't. We're not going to, you know, turn into what we've fortunately been able to accomplish in the past overnight. But you know, we're gonna take some baby steps, and my guess is we're gonna have a great amount of change in a short amount of time. It wasn't like they were, you know, doing everything horribly. You know, there's some things that we got to clean up. We got to get communication, execution, and assignments clean. And then Tuesday's practice will be a good indicator for me. The adjustments and corrections we'll make to get to Wednesday will be a better indicator, and Thursday, Friday. You know, Saturday we've got a tremendous test. We got a defense that likes to move around. They're quick, they're agile, they're athletic, they're speedy. So it'll be a tremendous challenge for our guys up front.
Bret, you referenced the hit on Aberdaris earlier. As someone who sits on the rules committee, what was your view of that hit, and should it have been flagged?
You know, Tom, I think that's a great question because here I am as a head coach. I watched the play, but because of my viewing, I never even saw the front side of it. People made reference to it after the game to me, and then I believe our trainer Mike Mole sent me a shot, or somebody sent me a shot of, you know, a pretty apparent sternum shot with a helmet, and I forwarded it on to Big Ten. Hey, you guys know in this profession, as fast as it's coming at us, you guys always have the benefit or ability to watch replay. I mean, when it's happening live, I can see why an official doesn't see it maybe as clean, or he can get spun around, but I think the officials overall have done a tremendous job of trying to increase the awareness of those type of situations. All we can do is continue to get better, and I know that crew will. It was an excellent Big Ten crew. The umpire, the guy that stands behind the linebackers, would have the cleanest view of that. I believe, was rated one of the best umpires in our league last year, so I felt really good about that. And you know, other than the end of the game replay, it's probably the only call I didn't agree with, you know, the whole day.
You said you know when it's time to make a move with a coach, even if it's during the season that you make it. I'm just wondering, how long had you been thinking about making this move? When did it first creep in your head, and how much did Saturday's result make you decide?
You know, I had an unusual entry into the world of college football. When I was named the head coach, I worked the entire year with Coach Alvarez and was able to draw conclusions on and he gave me full ability to keep or retain or move on anybody off that staff. So I had 6 months kind of in a way to process what I was going to do with my original staff. And from that point forward, I've made a lot of decisions. I've moved some people on. I've kept some people here. I've promoted from within. Those decisions are never made overnight. You know, if I have a decision that I'm going to move someone forward, you know, I try to make it as painless as possible, but also let them know very much in advance where I stand with them. you're never going to be a head coach unless you break something from an NCAA rules or you have a conduct that I can't contain. You're going to have several conversations with me on where we're at, where we need to go, and how you need to go about it. So, I make it very apparent every day in a staff meeting. We talk about if I have a coach that outright breaks a rule or does something that violates NCAA rules, they will not have a second. They won't have a leg to stand on. I'll move forward in a very short fashion. Football-wise, I'll have conversations all the time. Hey, let's think about this. I'll have a private meeting, sit down with coaches. So it wasn't an overnight thing. I can't say as I've got an exact deadline of when it happened. I just felt Saturday night flying home on a plane, long plane ride, sitting on my couch. Saturday night, I think I went to bed, late. Just processing where I was early to rise, and just I knew the direction I needed to go, and it's something hopefully we're going to be able to capitalize on.
Bret, specific to Saturday's call at the end of the game, is your biggest concern with that burden of proof in terms of indisputable video evidence to overturn, and also in general, what's your confidence in the replay review system?
Yeah, I have all the confidence in the world. I think Bill Carothel does an outstanding job. He's been on a job, I believe now this is his third year. Coming from the NFL has brought so much experience, knowledge. Just really in our league in particular, the officiating has jumped 110 times in the right direction. The replay is something that you're never going to be happy with when it goes against you. I think to have such a significant play last year with Michigan State, and then this year with the way we had some good rhythm going, man, and I never should have put ourselves in that position, but we practiced that play so many times, and I know Kyle French, I don't know if he has the highest GPA on our team, but he knows what 10 yards is, and he's probably pretty close. I don't want to offend him. He might be a 3.95, but he was fairly confident that it went 10 yards and everything else, and the thing that I think that I just asked for clarification, and we'll put the dynamics in motion, was it indisputable? Because the thing I said right away to my coaches, we were already calling plays. Hey, the ruling on the field is it was our ball. It's going to have to get overturned, and there's so much mumble jumble in there. And I've got a lot of still shots. People look forward me information, and all we got to do is we got to improve to make sure the next time it's not even close.
So, did you get more of an explanation from the Big Ten or the officials about that call?
No, that was a Pac-10 crew up there, Pac-12 crew up there. So no.
Bret, at one time it looked like Michael Trotter might be your next free safety after Aaron, and when he didn't get that job, how did he handle it? And could you just talk about his progression?
Yeah, Tom, I think that's a great point. Michael is a kid that came in, was very impressive to us. We thought about playing him as a true freshman, and I believe he got mono, if I'm not mistaken, right 2 weeks out from camp, and was late coming in. And last year felt very, very confident about him. I think he pulled a hammy. The one thing about having a twin is whatever one of them does, the other one does it 5 days later. So Marcus popped his hammy, Michael did 5 days later. The mono part I wasn't too sure about, but the thing that we're high on Michael is he's very conscientious. He'll always be in the right spot. He hopped into that game. You got a 2-score game. It suddenly became a 1-score game. He played very, very efficient, very confident in what he's doing. He's got athletic ability. Mom and Dad raised a great kid that I know he wants to have success. So I'm excited to see his preparation this week and see how he goes to work.
It looked like Dallas Llewellyn was warming up with the number 2 offense. I guess how close is he, and if he is close enough, could you make a move there?
Yeah, Tom, he's actually cleared last week. That was his first. It was his first time back being fully cleared for a full week of practice since last spring, I guess it was, or even last fall. And I know he was excited to get out there. There is a chance he could play this week. We would get him in normally in like maybe a field goal PAT, but just to throw him into anything other than maybe just a live rep, I just don't want to do it. So we'll see how he handles this week. It's kind of like Vince Beagle. Vince practiced last week and looked really good, running around, doing a lot of individual things, but I didn't want to burn his shirt this past year. I wanted to see how he came back and practiced this week, so there's a good chance you'll see him out there. Reggie Mitchell, same deal. Those 2 freshmen, as well as Dan Volz, and we got Reggie Love in the ball game last week.
Coming off this decision, the coaching change, and the way the first 2 games have transpired, how concerned are you about the confidence of this team maybe being shaken, and what do you have to do to guard against it this week?
Rob, I think that's a great question. I know this. Our guys the majority of our guys, I realize we've got first-year players, we've won a lot of games. You know, I pointed out to our guys, hey, in my 7 years as a head coach, I think I'm 25-1 in non-conference. I was trying to chase Fielding Yost at 41-0. I didn't know if I was going to get there. But it was interesting to me that, you know, after one non-conference loss, you know, people think that maybe I don't know what I'm doing. So I find that very, very challenging, to say the least. But I think on the flip side of it, our kids know and understand if you don't play the way that we prepare, if we don't play Wisconsin football for 4 quarters, you can lose to anybody. And it was stressed the week before with you and I. We went on the road to a hostile environment. Obviously, Big Ten teams haven't played well out there for a reason. We don't execute the way that we want to for 4 quarters, and bad things can happen. I think a quick reminder to our players is you go out and play with confidence. You go out and prepare the right way and know the game plan. Good things can happen. So we'll make sure the plan is, you know, if anything, a little bit more on the simple side, a little bit more on the basic, a little bit of the ability to, you know, process what's being called and be able to play fast and physical.
Fred, you mentioned what Utah State can do, especially offensively. If I remember correctly, Andy Boo has some experience.
Yeah.
How much do you go to him and see what they were able to do successfully against Utah State last
Big time. I typically, Jeff, leave the coaches alone on Sunday. We meet as a staff, but I let them have Sunday in their entirety and Monday morning to watch film on their own. I'll meet with the defensive staff today at 4 o'clock and get a perspective on what they see, what I see. That's the way we've done it in all my 7 years, so I can't really answer that. Although when I hired Andy, I said, hey, plus we play Utah State. He's got some ideas. You know, Andy is a very gifted coach. That onside kick, that's all him. It's something that he brought to the arena here in our football complex. He's in charge of kickoff coverage, and I thought that execution, design, and concept was just a little bit of an indicator how good a football coach I got there.
Bret, a lot of focus on the offensive line, but are you getting what you need out of the wide receivers to get defenses to back off the line of scrimmage a little bit?
You know, Tom, I would say a big hit came when Abby went down, because he's our most gifted at that thing. But we got to find ways to create exactly what you're talking about, guys, to get open off the line of scrimmage. You know, some guys that pressed us up realized that we have to get better at doing that. You know, whether it's by motions or alignments or shifts. But I do feel we got a group in there that's hungry. Coach Azani, my new wide receiver coach, works their tail off. I have to back him off a lot of times just on how demanding he is and moving forward. So it's a hungry room. And I was excited because some guys got some reps. Duck continues to play. AJ got out there. I'll give AJ a lot of credit. Here's a kid that every time I saw him last week was blowing his nose, had the worst cold anybody could ever have, and never missed a day of practice, and competed very, very hard. I think that throw he missed at the back of the end zone there, the next one he'll catch. You know, you just hope that the person process move forward. And we should get Chase Hammond back out there, and that'll be a good thing to see. He practiced a little bit last week, but it re-aggravated that foot on Wednesday. We backed him out. I said, let's hold him until Tuesday of this week, and I know he's itching to get out there.